Hi all, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me in saying the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And now we're on to public audience. If there's anyone who would like to speak, there's a microphone over there. Please give us your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Shannon Leary, 8 Kilbourne Road in Simsbury. Good evening, everyone. As I said, my name is Shannon Leary, and for clarification, I have been a local, statewide, and national advocate for disability rights since my son Jack was diagnosed with autism in 2022. Thank you to the Board of Education and District Administration for listening to my public comment this evening. Federal law, and most recently Connecticut law in regard to autistic students, requires that transition planning begin at the age of 14. This is section 300.1 of IDEA 2004. While IDEA also stipulates that programming should be tailored to individual needs of a student, the general takeaway is that transition services are required by law according to the CSDE memo of September 2021. Besides being Jack's mother, I'm also a special education advocate, trained in the interpretation and implementation of special education law by the Council of Parent Attorneys and Advocates. In both of these capacities, I submit that the law is clear and should duly be interpreted by school districts. Sadly, this is not the case. And while I have specific issues regarding compensatory services, which will need to be addressed in the PPT setting, my concerns extend beyond my own son. These concerns are in regard to a transportation goal he is no longer able to access due to the relocation of FVTA, the Farmington Valley Transitional Academy. It reads as follows: given direct instruction and opportunities, John Mark Knoll will be able to identify and plan out 5 trips on Connecticut Transit to different locations within his community with 90% accuracy. Similarly, you all received correspondence from Jack himself, citing the challenges he has faced with FVTA's instability, lack of heat, lack of access to academic options, and lack of access to public transportation. First, as evidenced by law, the basis of transition services and their outcome area outlined in IDEA should not come as a surprise to any school district. Further, if a school district is truly invested in a special education program for students with a variety of disabilities, it would be of no surprise that they are responsible for the individual educational outcomes provided by IDEA. Second, when expressing concerns to the Board of Education about issues regarding heat or sewage smells in the building, proper implementation of IEP goals, and inconsistent delivery models for post-secondary services required by law, I received a response from 3 people, none providing any helpful information, 1 responding 2 months later, and still with no helpful information or solution. Finally, who on this Board of Education knows where students in post-secondary transition programs are? Who knows where they are employed? Who knows what they are working on? Who knows what IDEA is, and who knows the district's legal obligations? In my own experience, this tells me there are almost none. So these are my asks. Make finding a home for FETA a priority. Can you imagine if typical students were moved about to different locations for 3 years? This town would be here with pitchforks. Understand your educational responsibilities. Visit FETA, learn the law, be an advocate for students with disabilities. Establish a time frame on how long Board of Ed members have to respond to constituent emails. I completely acknowledge that Board of Ed positions are volunteer, but no response is simply neglectful. Students with disabilities are your responsibility as well. You are their advocate as much as you are the advocate of sports programs, college admissions, theater standouts, and academic superstars. And I will share the following as a parent. My child's experience is valid. You can argue it, but it's still valid. I have so many Simsbury teachers to thank for how they have helped our family. I've been deep in the trenches of special education law, and special education law application. Maybe defer to me a little. The goal of my relationship with SPS has never been to be adversarial. That said, upholding any of my son's educational rights will always be a priority. But now in the last stages of our time with the district, here we are. And I'm not letting you off the hook, because I know that you know how to do right, and I know that you know how to do better. Disability rights will always be something I do, and as long as I live in this town, I will always hold you accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight?
We're going to continue a theme. My name is Eileen Swan. I have a student that's at FETA. I'm from Granby, and my student is in his second year at FETA. As everything that Shannon just said is true and reiterated. I've been going through this process with FETA since last year. There are all kinds of issues going on, some of which the district, I know, has no control over. This will be brought to Farmington Board of Ed as well, because I know it is a joint program. And I firmly believe that the beginning of this process sat at Mark Boxer's desk. He has effectively terminated a relationship with the University of Hartford and the FETA program by taking the rug out from under people, and nobody saw it coming. But since then, major problems have been happening. And you're going to be led to believe that this is not impacting the students. That's just not right. And it's not true. Go see for yourself. Not one administrator has stepped foot on our farm to see what is going on there. Just very quickly, I can tell you some issues that should raise the hair on the back of your neck. PPT meetings are being held in foyers, by the bathroom, out in the public, in cars, where you can hear it all happening. I go pick my son up every day, I see what's happening. The teachers are stressed, they're frustrated, the students are being impacted. They're carrying materials back and forth. Confidential information is going into somebody's private car. Medical information is going into somebody's private car. Do you understand the legalities of what you will get hit with if there becomes a problem with this? What I should have started with is, I'm also an advocate, but more importantly, I'm an attorney. And I've been doing education law for 20 years. And I can tell you the compensatory ed, if people push on the FETA piece for the hours that are not happening and were not happening, the problem, I personally called the health department and the fire department on the building because of the fumes, and nobody could answer our question as to what fumes my child was being exposed to. The building was sold to a private person who was not providing access to the basement. They were not providing heat. Rooms would be below 32 degrees. And the answer was a temporary placement at our farm. Our farm is woefully inadequate for what we need for our students. There is one room that they are operating out of, and it is not a very big room. Again, go look for yourself. Don't take our word for it. Go see it. Talk to the staff. See what's happening with the students. Even on the best day, they're in a larger room, but one room. And it's not okay. What I'd like to give you is, this is a 3-page document of all the things that have occurred, that I've documented, that I've personally witnessed and seen, that I've been pushing. And, as Katie would tell you, I've been pushing for this, about what's going on, where is the placement. We get no answers. We get fluff emails about what's happening with our students. The final straw for me, and I want you to hear this carefully because I'm taking this further. Please know that I'm taking this further. The final straw for me to say this, I'm not stopping here, is that we were told that the University of Hartford has agreed to give us space in the form of a room or two on an off-campus location. Then I come to find out that when our students arrived at this off-campus location to access that, there are signs at the University of Hartford telling our students, our disabled students, that they must go in the back way. Are we in the 50s? Where the hell are we? Why is that acceptable? If this doesn't outrage you, it's going to outrage the public. And unless something is done immediately, there is going to be repercussions. It's not staying here. We've had enough with not getting answers. This has been going on since September, just so you know. The move to our farm was in October. The kids were shuttled from They would come to FETA's Girard building, can't even go in the building because the health department said it wasn't safe to go in there, okay? I know, I called them. I'm waiting for the report. I spoke to the supervisor, Elizabeth. It was not safe to go in. They make a decision to permanently relocate at our farm without adequate space. Back and forth, back and forth. The students were spending so much time in transportation to two buildings. Staff was carrying boxes of material in their private cars to educate our students and meet their goals and IEPs. By the way, as a
If you
result,
could please wrap up, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
no worries. As a result, IEP hours were not met. The program had to start late because of the transition to our farm, and they had to end early as a result of transportation back to Girard building. So you've got a lot of problems here. You've got equitable discrimination issues that are going to come back and haunt you if you don't do something about it. It's not just yours.
Thank you.
I know it's Farmington, and I know mostly it's University of Hartford. I encourage you to read what I wrote. I left enough for everybody on the board.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight?
Hi. Hi. My name's Amy McLean. I'm a 22-year resident of this town. I also
Can you just
had,
say your address? Amy?
oh, sorry, Amy McLean, 36 Elm Street in Terriffill, Connecticut.
Thank you.
And I've been learning a lot about, the situation that these students are facing. And I felt as both a friend of Shannon and also as a person who pays taxes and who understands how much energy everyone puts into the work you do here. As a former chair of the town committee, I'm on the sustainability committee here in the town. I care about this town, and I think people are moving to this town for all of the reasons that are all good. I think I personally know somebody who just came to this town who is a prominent person from the state who left a neighboring town to come here for exactly these reasons, because she had been told that this town serves the students in need better than almost any other. So I'm here to just both give you a perspective of not knowing really how bad it is, but also wanting it to be better for everybody who has worked so hard to make this town what it is. So I'm speaking here as a friend and an advocate who's still learning about how important these issues are. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight? Seeing none, I would like to personally apologize / clarify. As a board, all emails that come to all board members are answered collaboratively through me, and I probably should have stated that better in my emails that I was representing the board. I thought that was implied, but I apologize for not being specific. So when you email all 8 of us, the answer will come through the chair because we do discuss and I do act as the voice of the board. So I apologize for you not understanding that. That is why you don't get answers from 8 separate people. So
But I do get answers from some people, so I
and
think
I
that's very
understand that, they
common.
let me know when they do, but I just wanted you to know that as a general rule, I am the one who communicates.
Well, in the future, that should be clarified.
So, and it will be.
I appreciate
And
that. Thank you.
I will do that going forward, so that's my apology there. With FETA, we know there's been a lot of upheaval, and we understand all of that. And we are in a partnership with another community and are doing our best to negotiate this situation. I will read with interest all of the comments that you have provided with us. And I've been to our farm and understand that they are actually willing to work very hard with us to improve the program. So we are really excited about a partnership with them and being able to bring different opportunities to the students there. But we understand your concerns and do hear them. We are getting back to University of Hartford. I haven't seen the building there, so I can't speak to your specific points. But the board is working very hard to move the situation forward, work with all our partners, and come up with a good solution for all our students. Special ed is a very important part of this school system. Our board fully supports our special ed services. We do it as a policy board, through budget allocations, through special ed teachers that we have hired. There have been 9 special ed professionals that we've hired over the last year, and I know there are requests for more. We are working very hard to support our kids, all our kids. And we have actually asked Katie to come back to us in the spring with a full update on FETA, but just know that we are certainly well aware of what FETA is, what IDEA is. We are all educated to a degree, certainly not as much as you all, but certainly enough to do our jobs. So I thank you all for your comments. With that, we are on to committee reports and Board of Ed communications. Grace, welcome to the table.
Hi, so I think I would just like to start off by briefly introducing myself. I'm a part of many clubs, varsity sports, and a few honor societies, and I'm just very involved with my community at the high school, and I'm very fortunate for the board giving me this opportunity to speak and represent my classmates. That being said, second semester is underway as we just finished up our midterms last week. Right now there's a lot of buzz going around about the upcoming play, Matilda, and tickets are now on sale at the Simsbury High School webpage. And I believe there's less than 2 weeks from the first show date, which is February 3rd. And last Monday, there is the MLK celebration at Eno Hall, which is the yearly celebration, which is always a great success. Our Congresswoman Johanna Hayes made a surprise appearance, and the gospel choir gave a performance that actually ended up being on the news. So, yeah, that's all from me.
That was exciting.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm also every
No report today.
Ryan?
Not tonight.
Neil?
Just to keep you updated, big milestone, they have started pouring concrete at Latimer Lane. So things are progressing. The mild weather has helped keep things moving along. So there's dozens of workers on site every day, so making progress.
Great.
All set, so thanks.
Mrs. Lund?
Sure. Just want to call your attention in your folders is a copy of this year's district annual report. I should say this year. It's actually regarding 21 and 22. And there are the new school strategic plans. Those are up on the website, and Matt will be sending you a link for easy access in his Friday update. So please peruse and give us any feedback, but we are very excited about how our strategic goals have come to life and data and successes and achievements and our next level of work. So enjoy this,
Great,
and
thank
please
you.
reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. All right, and with that, we are on to approval of minutes for the January 10th, 2023 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our last Board of Ed meeting.
Thank you.
I missed the date on it, but I was there, January 10th.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Personnel.
2 items that require your action and then one for information. We'll start with a recent resignation. Dan Lestrude has been with us in our culinary arts program for the last 5.5 years. The chef has, worked with our students who are on that kind of vocational track, and as well as some of our earlier cooking electives. And he recently got an opportunity to take that work to the community college level. And it was starting with this semester that's just, so that'll, he was excited to be able to make that transition as a last stage in his career and move on to the community college experience. And so he resigned his position. The gentleman who retired from this position 5.5 years ago, Chef Centino, has come back to substitute for the remainder of the year. So we are in good hands, and we wish Dan well with his next chapter, and the motion is there for your consideration.
Can I get somebody to make that, please?
I'll move that the Board of Education accept the resignation of Daniel Lestrode effective January 19th, 2023.
Second.
Sure.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and thank you very much. Good luck to Mr. Lestrode. And
Next one is a retirement that was just announced last week. So congratulations to Melissa Fearington in our math department at Simsbury High School, although it is with regrets from us. Melissa's been with us for 15 years after a career change from an engineering role, and was looking to make the transition into teaching, and did a fabulous transition, and then invented our computer science program herself. And now it has blossomed. You all have seen our hour of code that she's been instrumental in bringing across the district. And there are now, I don't even know how many electives in computer science, 6 different courses.
About
And multiple teachers doing it. Melissa was your selection for the Chamber of Commerce Educator of the Year a few years ago. So really, second career that was a storied career. And Melissa will now be enjoying her retirement effective at the end of the year. So the motion is there.
Move that the Board of Education accept the retirement of Melissa Fearington effective June 30th, 2023.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And thank you very much for your service. We are very lucky to have her.
And then for information purposes, a hire that we had some transition into leadership internally here in the district. So we had a school psychologist vacancy that had taken a little bit of time to fill, but we were very fortunate at the end of the day to have Lauren Pomeroy come to us from another district locally. So very pleased that she started here at Squadron Line already, and off to a great start. So congratulations to Lauren.
All right, great, welcome to her. And now we are on to Squadron Line school report.
Yeah, we're very excited this evening to have Principal Meg Evans and Assistant Principal Nancy Forsberg, along with some other staff that I'm sure Meg and Nancy will introduce in just a minute, to provide you a little outline of what's been going on here at Squadron Line. So as you know, the district theme is around engagement this year. And we've heard from the high school and the middle school how they're engaging. Meg and Nancy's going to start off by giving us an idea of how they've engaged the greater Squadron Line community with the myriad of events that shows how Squadron continues to shine here in Simsbury. And then they're going to engage you as board members in a different way. We're going to do some small group breakout. And then members of the Squadron Line staff are going to share with you in line with the strategic goals of student performance, of climate and culture, and premier workforce, and share some of the particulars of how that work is living each and every day here at Squadron. So I am going to hand it off to Meg and Nancy and have them take it away.
All right, great.
So we're super excited to have you here. I think we couldn't do the great work that we do without the superheroes of our faculty and our staff, our administration support, our Board of Education, and our community. And so we're excited to share a few highlights with you. As Sue was saying, you know, we always, all of the work that we do is grounded in the vision of the graduate and our 5-year goals from the Board of Education. And from that, we create a one-page document that we really focus on throughout the year. So our focus at Squadron has been instruction, behavior and social emotional learning, and culture and equity. And so tonight we're just going to showcase a few of the highlights for you. So one of the things I think this year has felt really good, we were hoping that last year was going to be like this year, and with COVID mitigation factors, although we certainly did our best and were able to engage in our community, I think we've been able to do so even to a greater level this year. And so we're super excited about the reconnecting not only with our faculty and staff in ways that we haven't been able to do so in the past, but also our community. So one of the highlights of the fall is always our Storybook Pumpkin Stroll, and what's really neat about that is that our families are amazing at contributing and decorating pumpkins or sending in materials for classes to be able to decorate pumpkins that are in line with the class's favorite storybook, and then we put them on display. And then not only do our students get a chance to dress up as a character from their favorite storybook, but our staff do as well. And so it's just nice to be able to bring that fun into an educational setting. I think one of the things that was particularly special, as the wife of a veteran, Veterans Day always has a special place in my heart, but it was so nice this year to be able to bring back our tradition of celebrating as a whole community together. So we had 2 assemblies where students were able to get up and sing at each grade level. We had instrumental music performances, and then we were able to get stories of the veterans from our students who were able to interview veterans, and they were able to tell a little bit about what they learned. And then from COVID, when we weren't able to do this, we did a car parade, and this year what we've added on to our in-school presentation was being able to do a Veterans Day parade, where all the veterans who were at our school in attendance of our event were able to walk out, and our school had lined up from the school all the way around the parking lot. And so they were able to get chanted and cheered and thanked for their years of service, and it was really touching not only to our veterans, but also to our community, Squadron 9 community. We're also very grateful that we're able to bring back our performing arts, our cultural performing arts, and it's nice to be able to have our groups of students doing it. So instead of just 1 or 2 grade levels, that we really have been able to offer this experience to our whole school, which has been exciting.
Very nice ribbon skills down in the corner there,
Oh,
Mrs.
yes.
Evans.
I was like, I did not know the
noticed.
workout that I was going to get. I had switch arms halfway through. I was like, oh my gosh, thank gosh, there's only 2 performances out of that. I don't know what I can do. And then I think one of the things that grew out of last year, again, we were only able to have a few grade levels participate, but we have a faculty member, Christina Garrity, who has a connection to AIC University, and their hockey program is quite impressive. And there's 2 students who attend, Reggie Miller and Blake, I just blinked on his last name, but they have overcome tremendous obstacles to be quite successful hockey players who have a very bright future in the NHL. And so they came last year to share their stories with 3rd and 4th grade, and this year they were able to share their stories with grades 3 through 6. And then after the whole group assembly, they were able to go into the individual classrooms and just be able to share some more intimate details, but also the kids were able to get autographs from the students, our Reggie and Blake, and then Reggie was actually given an autograph by one of our female hockey players, because he needed it, and she makes her debut, and the relationship was so special. Blake is a senior, and he is hopeful to be in the NFL, and had said if there's any way we could arrange the visit next year around when he's back home, he'd love to attend, but certainly didn't want to hold up the presentation on our end. But they did ask us back, and we got to go see a game where they played, and then invited us back into the locker room. So it's nice to be able to engage those connections with our community, not only in town, but also out of town.
Yeah, they gave everyone free tickets for the
That's
game. It was
amazing.
great.
It was
How
great.
generous of them.
Yeah.
That's great.
Lots to say, I don't know if I want to go back to the locker room. Hockey
doesn't sound good.
They work hard.
That's a powerful experience for her. Well, it's been amazing, my first year here as assistant principal at Squadron, and just to be part of getting back to more normal things. In addition to all these great things happening in school, we've actually been able to now turn it back and give back to the community in a host of service projects. So this has been fabulous. One of our first things with the turkey trot, we raised over $1,100 for food share and turkeys, and I give back to, which was a fantastic experience. In addition, we had a coat drive. We raised over 250 coats for students and needy families around the community. That was a big pile out in the front office for a while. So that was a great experience. It just grew and grew every day, which was phenomenal. And we raised $2,500 for PJ Day for the Connecticut Children's Cancer Fund, which is something we do as around the district, but that was a great event. Again, getting to see both kids and adults in pajamas, raising great money for kids in need. And finally, we have a Squadron Line giving tree here that we were able to collect gifts for holiday gifts for 19 children within our own community.
Was that through social services, Nancy?
Yes, that was through,
Through
our
our social worker.
yes, through our social worker here.
Great.
That's
And they were able to also connect some other gifts from, I think, through the town social work as well.
Terrific.
That's great.
So we're also excited about re-engaging in the work because we do know that instruction matters. And so tonight we have some of our superheroes live and in person to be able to help showcase some of the work that we've been doing. As Sue had mentioned, we have student growth and success highlights that we want to share with you about compassionate and connected school culture and premier workforce. So this year, as part of our engagement work, we're also trying to make our faculty meetings and our professional developments more engaging instead of just a stand and delivery, to be able to model and roll our sleeves up and get in the work in that we're expecting our teachers to do. So we thought we would do that with you tonight. And so we have 3 stations, and we thought if people could just count off by 3, then we'll assign you to one of those groups and we can let our superheroes lead the way. But before we do that, I'm just going to introduce them. We have Jill DeVita is one of our language arts consultants. She will be working with Sarah McHugh, who is another language arts consultant on the student growth and success. Jeff Hall is a 6th grade teacher who will be working with Nancy on the compassionate and connected school culture. And then George DeVita is a 5th grade teacher who will be with me on the premier workforce.
And just to be clear, part of what we'll do is in your group, you're going to come back and report out to the rest of the group what you learned.
Oh, there's an accountability factor here.
Accountability factor, because that's an important thing that we want to do. So we did not want to not give you that expectation ahead of time so that you knew what your role in this was. Yes.
All right, so we appreciate that. So to move this forward, I need a motion that the actual board meeting itself will go into recess. So,
I can say one quick thing. I just was really excited to see the turkey trot back up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody, especially in this building, Jack Bannon, the godfather of the turkey trot, taught me here that you're speaking to me. Yeah, so I really greatly appreciate seeing that up there. With that said, let me make a motion to move to recess the meeting for the board members to participate in the small group discussions with staff members regarding building priorities.
I'll second it.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Just a little.
You might want to stay here just in case we need to coach with our lead up session, so you can have a little.
See what happens when I get. I got it. I think I'm calling us back. You can move, yeah.
I need to move us to reconvene the meeting. Thanks, Todd.
I'll second that.
Todd, you're in.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are reconvened.
Excellent. So thank you for engaging in the small group discussions about each of our areas of focus. And so now we're going to give you an opportunity to showcase what you learned in each of the areas. So we do have our supports of our facilitators with you in case you miss anything.
Don't let me
So
down.
we're not going to let anyone drown in here, but what were some highlights that you learned about Squadron's focus in our student growth and success?
So that's me and Grace. Do you want to say anything first?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I learned a lot. I learned about universal screenings and how they're providing new data. I learned about the new units that are being introduced and how the collaboration has improved so much in the tiers and how they're all working together and how it's really benefiting all the students overall.
And we learned about how one data point doesn't work without the other. They all flow together, and that the intervention process is really moving kids forward in wonderful ways.
I would agree, and I think the other highlight that I'm really excited about is we worked really hard to refine our data cycle process, and so when we have those data team meetings, not only can we outline small group instruction for our students, but also it gets the coaches involved, where they're able to meet with teachers to be able to say, what are those instructional methods that are going to be used? How are we going to measure their success? they might come in and do some co-teaching or things of that nature. So it's been a great springboard for our coaches to get in the work in a very natural, supportive, and collaborative way, not just we're checking it off the checkbox or why are you coming in to see my group or unpacking the study. It's been great.
Yeah, it was great to hear that it doesn't all just happen in PD, that it's in the classrooms with the kids, with that as a focus, and so supportive of each other as professionals in the room. So well done, all of you.
You did great. A+. You passed. All right, and so next up, we can hear from our compassionate and connected school culture group.
I'll start off. I mean, it's always great to actually talk to the folks who are doing the work and seeing it firsthand. And I appreciate being able to do that. So compassionate connected school culture. I'm going to go a little out of order. I mean, with the SHINE program that we've talked about for many years here, always looking at that, keeping it fresh, updating it where it needs to be, just to make sure that it's part of the culture and fits in with everything else that's going on. And that's what's happening here. Additionally, there's the Instagram program, which, aside from just connecting with parents and with people outside of the school, I think it also teaches responsible social media use, so kids can see that it can be used for good communication as well. More connected technology. We watched a video of a news program that the kids are working on. They're news anchors, and they go to the reporter in the field, and that reporter in this case was teaching. You see a bit of a scenario that's probably pretty common in the cafeteria, some tension, and how do you deal with that in a positive way? How do you kind of resolve issues favorably and amicably? And that was it was nice to see the kids doing the news program. We ended with talking about the social emotional learning and how we deal with that, not just at Squadron, but across all the elementary schools, looking to see that we can have some commonality in the SEL curriculum across all the elementary schools, and just talk a lot about how the kids feel about it and how the teachers deal with it. It's I think a nice component to rounding out the education and making sure that kids are feeling happy about what they're doing. So a lot of good stuff going on with the culture.
Well, that's why you get paid the big bucks.
I just kept going.
Gosh. I feel like, remember all that stuff. I don't no notes or anything.
That's why I spoke so fast.
Gosh, no, Todd nailed it. Just to hit on the SEL piece, right? We learned that every dollar that's invested turns into $11, I guess, right? So that's fantastic. And who knew that Squadron had an Instagram page? So I thought that was very cool.
I'm feeling like I should follow it as an alum.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Great. And then the last but not least is our premier workforce.
I learned that they started the principal forum, which they say where the principal will let families 4 times a year join in and talk about things and issues, concerns. But she also does it with teachers and staff, which is awesome. And the new teacher academy, or should I stop talking? Jeff, do you know? Okay, the new teacher academy was about they let the new teachers to Squadron, not whether you've been a teacher for 15 years or first year, it is they can have a buddy system, like a big brother, big sister, and work with them to answer questions and make everyone feel like a community. And professional development was the fire chat. That was the longest part, and we haven't. Jeff, do you have some more to add to that?
Well, certainly.
Tag it out.
Well,
what I was impressed with on all three of these bullets really is the level of teacher engagement and letting the teachers drive these three. Even to Jim's, the professional development, the teachers get to drive some of the sessions and the topics that are discussed in those development sessions. I just think that's really, Meg, that's a real trust on your part, right? To make sure that that's moved forward. So I just applaud you in giving them that authority, really, to kind of make these programs really, really excellent, I think.
Thank you. Well, when we have such fabulous people that we hire and have a premier workforce, that's when we can engage in work like this, because we can trust and we learn and grow from each other. I think that's one of the things that we take pride in when we're doing the interview process. And as we, even invest in our teachers and our staff and our coaches, is to make sure that we believe in continuous improvement. I think it's the blessing and the curse of being in education. The blessings, there's so many things that we can get out of it, and you can certainly refine and hone your craft. The curse is you can always refine and hone your task. You never can get stale, because there's always something new to learn. And the fact that the district makes it a safe place to be able to take risks and learn, it makes me feel comfortable to be able to talk this into the staff. So that's our presentation tonight. I think we did a great job summarizing, so thank you for your engagement and listening and getting excited about the work that we're doing. And again, just wanted to thank our community, because we couldn't shine without the fabulous support from students, our families, and the Board of Ed. So thank you very much for letting us showcase tonight.
Thank you all for taking time out of your evening to be here with us. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate you engaging us in this way. It was really fun for us to get up, move around, see different pieces. So we thank you all very much. Great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well
Can I
done.
get that from you, Meg?
And now we are on to our second budget presentation of this season. Mr. Sullivan's
All right.
fun enrollment show.
Yeah, so
Do we need to open our binders to anything particular at this point, or?
the presentation should be in there under a personnel tab, or is it
Yes.
enrollment and staffing? What's the tab called? Do we know? Who's got the tab?
Staffing and enrollment.
Staffing and enrollment, that's
It
where
is like the seventh tab.
okay, thank you.
In the previous presentation that Katie Kursula did on January 10th is under your special education tab.
It's right behind staffing and
Yes,
enrollment.
so that's
Yep.
there as
We're
well.
building from the back of the book to the front.
Okay, so obviously, as the folks who are here as experienced members of the board know, your costs in personnel and insurance represent over 80% of the overall budget of the school system. So this is where the bulk of the dollars come in any organization such as ours. So as our meeting with the tri-boards and the conditions that are out there have laid out, we are facing a year a little bit unlike many of the others before, where we've sort of lived for almost a decade in a 2% budget increase, sometimes less than 2%. And that the reality of increasing costs, increasing settlements in labor contracts, and increasing enrollment is going to make that kind of target not realistic. So I think all the boards are pretty well informed that we're in a little bit of a different context, and that meeting was very productive to establish that. So as I go through this, and as I typically do, I break it down to elementary, middle, and high school. Our requests are actually at the elementary level this year. We are not coming in, being mindful of the pressures we're facing, we're not coming in with a lot of middle and high school requests. So that we can pretty quickly and efficiently move through those portions of the presentation. I also narrowed the presentation a little bit. Those of you who remember it from past years, we took some wide historical looks at really the last 15, 20 years. I've narrowed it a little bit so that we're really looking at the last few years because we have added a number of positions related to special ed, related to our mental health supports, related to things like math coaches. The board has supported some new FTE in the last few years, and you're going to see that reflected in some of the data I show. So with that said, I'm going to start with a little bit of the district context. And what I did on each of these early slides, you'll see I took the year before 2019-20, which is the year we first encountered COVID. So it started as a normal staffing year before we entered into our distance learning, and then taking it up until the current year, which is 22-23. So overall, you can see 138 student increase in that should not say decline, the increase at that level, and then at the K-6 level, but only 39 students overall, because what is has been rising at the elementary level, we've been able to offset some of the costs with the decrease at the high school level, and that's going to be this theme that you see going through this. When that translates into staffing, you can see that our certified staffing is up 18 positions, about a little less than 5% of an increase over this 4-year period. And on the bottom there, you can be reminded what that's attributed to. It's enrollment trends at the elementary level. When I get to the elementary specific slides, we've added quite a few classroom teachers, and you know that that's happened, many of them in the summers, where we've experienced some emergency needs to make sure that classes weren't over class size. But we've also had some planned for increases. In addition, we have many positions supported through some grant funding, and you'll hear a little bit more about that. Last year, in significantly increasing our mental health supports, and then our new special education positions, including the board last year supporting the restructure of the elementary leadership at the for that level. We've been able to get there because over the last few years, we've actually, after historically a pretty big increase in non-certified, we've gotten a little bit better about tightening our belt with the non-certified in the last few years. It's been an area of concentration where we are looking really hard at every resignation and retirement. So you can see that over the last few years, we have sort of held steady on the number of non-certified positions in the district. Overall, the increase in staffing over the last few years is a little less than 3% of new personnel. And again, and much of it in response to the pandemic and the gaps that we were experiencing both academically and in terms of mental health needs. So looking more specifically at the elementary level, this.
Can I just,
sure.
Sorry, back that.
Sure.
Just backing up one. So when we look at the certified staff for say 22-23 school year, in that certified number, that includes our school psychologists, our social workers, all those people we've brought in to help support.
That number is in that 388,
I
yes.
just wanted to be clear that that's in the certified number. Thank you.
That's in this. Okay. I want to focus just on classroom teachers in the last 4 years and moving forward. And you can see that we are 138 students from 1920 to the current year, and then the projection is for another 99 students. So that could make you nervous, like 99 students sounds like at least 4 more teachers. But it doesn't translate. The way this has divided up into classroom cohorts, the 138 students have required us to, by staying within our class size guidelines, to add 10 teachers over the last 4 years at the elementary level across our 5 buildings. So the anomaly obviously being when the year that we returned from COVID, and we put a whole bunch of other folks who were interventionists and reading specialists into classrooms. We sort of skyrocketed up to 123 classroom positions and then readjusted back to 107. Last year, we hoped to go in with just adding one position, and we ended up having to add 3. So that gets us to the 110 that we're currently at, which is, logically, you say we added 138 students. Did we really need 10 teachers for that? And it's really, as I've shared with you over time, it's that class size grid at the elementary level that accounts for why. But as a result, because our class sizes are pretty good right now, if we did feel this 96 more students, it would not require as many new teachers. And in fact, the thing I highlighted in the presentation about our NESDEC projections is that where we're seeing it is kindergarten. And so next slide is going to be what our proposal is, and it's going to be about kindergarten. We have a projection of 354 kindergartners. We have not seen a number like that in a long time. How long, you ask? So I decided to take my enrollment book and flip back quickly this afternoon to see the last time I could find a number like that. And it would be in the 2004 school year would be the last time you could find that we had, at that time, a kindergarten of 344. So it's really going on 20 years. So if that projection comes through, we're reaching a kindergarten size that we have not experienced. And we'll have to see. I mean, right now, that's gonna require us to add 2 elementary classroom positions. Last year, a lot of emphasis on special ed and our mental health side of things, in addition to the elementary supervisor positions as we restructured there. This year, the focus, it remains special ed, but as Katie outlined in the last time, it's really more about the caseloads, the instructional delivery in special ed, as opposed to the social workers or psychologists. And we're going to be requesting 2 additional positions there. So in terms of the new asks, this is where you're really going to, these represent all of the new asks in this particular budget from a personnel standpoint. It is 4 positions, all at the elementary level, 2 in general education classrooms. If those kindergarten projections are correct, 1 would be at Latimer, because they would need 4 kindergartens, and 1 would be at Squadron because they would need 5 kindergartens.
I was going to ask you, so you know the geography of the students based on this information we've had around parents enrolling their kids?
I do.
Okay, so that's, so they're really breaking into the north and south ends of town.
We had that better when we were working with the other demographer.
Okay.
But we do have census information that we collect. And we ask parents to get in touch with us if they have a child under 5.
Yeah.
So we know, if you've gotten in touch with us, we know where you live.
Right.
If you have not yet, that could be the surprise factor.
So I
But
guess I'm dancing around a little bit would we have to maybe redistrict so that we could get the kids only at a Squadron and only at a Latimer?
yeah, more likely for a kindergarten, what you would do, it's going back a ways, but you'll remember it, Susan. You take, okay, we're going to move a kindergarten class to another school.
Yeah.
And then bring it back in first grade.
Okay.
And we did that between Latimer and Tooten at one point.
Yep.
And we had a Terrafil and Squadron situation where we did that. So that, you'd probably look for a school where you're trying to,
Where you
but-
have a little room.
where you have a little room. There's
Okay.
it won't be here. We don't have a lot of room here.
So maybe a little flexibility as you're planning.
Yeah. So, so that's the ask on the general education side. And on the special education side, as I said, it's about addressing the larger caseloads. One of the things that Katie Crisula and her teachers, those department supervisors working with the teachers, are really trying to look at what they call the service hours on a kid's IEP, making sure we can find some discrepancy where certain schools assign more hours as a trend than others, and really trying to have a conversation about trying to, every case is individual, thus an individualized education plan, but really trying to say, are we evening out our services, because 2 teachers can't go to 5 schools. Like, so we have to figure out, and I think it was Todd at the last meeting who asked Katie, like, is 2 enough? Is that all you need? And she said it would go a very long way toward meeting our need of reducing those caseloads. But across 5 buildings, we're going to have to watch that. And it could be special ed ending up being a place more in the early summer where we say, you know what, we do need to add 1 more because this particular school still has those large caseloads. And that's something we'll be eyeing. But right now, the budget request is for 2 across those 5 buildings. So in terms of a budget impact, we have a placeholder figure of what a mid-level salary and an insurance package costs for a new hire. And based on that, it's about $92,000 because each of those 2 requests add up to $195,000, and thus when you get to the summary, it's a little less than $400,000 of new asks in certified staffing. Okay, so yeah, let's stop. It's a perfect stopping point.
If I can just say that back to you. So the 195, let's just say for the elementary school classroom teachers, that's not necessarily salary. That's salary. That's insurance. That's an all-in number.
That's a full benefit package.
Yes.
Yep.
A mid-level, a salary that we have 9 steps, now 10 on our salary schedule. We pick a mid-level salary and then we add a full cost of all the benefits. And that's the number that we get.
I have an elementary question. One is this the survey, the census that we do we have that data back, and does that show that is it giving you any indication that the numbers are up?
It's giving me, it's keeping me up at night, but no, right now, if our information is accurate, we would not push that 354.
Okay.
But it is so early, and what we've learned in the last few years is that our preschool census information is not as good as it used to be. Like pre-COVID, we got better information. Like people knew to contact us. There was a little more word of mouth, and we had way more surprises of kindergartners in the last few years. Like,
do you think there's more hesitation since COVID? Because maybe I'm not going to send my kids.
Yeah. Well,
I think you're right.
And we experienced the dip of that class of 2021 where we had a super small kindergarten.
Right.
And then the next kindergarten was larger. So, but we blanket the daycares in town, our preschoolers. Our best information is the school secretaries who, when families come to pick up an older sibling, they go, "Oh, and how old are you?" And, we get a lot.
Secretaries know everything.
They do.
We get a lot of good information about, we're not nosy, and when's your birthday?
I might have a tree for you.
So,
the other question I have is on that elementary classroom teacher staffing chart. And I'm sorry if you said this and I missed it, but that if you take COVID out, the 2021 year, so you went up 46 kids, right, between 19 and 21.
Yeah.
And then you did 7 more classrooms.
Yeah.
Is that 7 was because we had to keep some COVID restrictions?
No, that was That was when we added 4 in the summer.
But then,
Because we had classes that just went above,
okay.
and we added like 3 in July and 1 even in August.
But you think but we add 99 kids and we're only gonna add 2?
Yes, because there's room.
Places that they can be absorbed, because we've opened up these additional sections. That makes sense.
Right, so it's not that those
If we're
99,
rolling the dice and they lose in that school district, then it'll be okay. But if they all moved into Latimer,
But that's, well, that doesn't happen. And the good news in terms of knowing,
Yeah.
we literally, I get a report from Laura Shellman, the enrollment coordinator, every Friday starting in March. So it doesn't sneak up on me. Like if 3 kids move in June, I know. I mean,
what's the due date for the enrollment forms?
Pardon?
What's the due date on the enrollment?
We ask the kindergarten families to get them back to the school by April 1st.
Okay.
So they will be doing their kindergarten open houses next month in February.
Okay.
And they get about a month to decide.
And then you call and
And-
email.
but they can change their minds up until school starts, right?
Right.
Yes, they can't change their minds. So we usually, by May, have a very good handle on who's coming and who's not. But there are holdouts. There are people who in May just tell, I just can't decide.
Okay.
And then I start counting them as a yes, because
Better be safe
Because
than
it's
sorry.
better to be safe than
Right.
sorry,
Yeah.
right?
So those 99 kids, that increase, if I'm hearing it, just to make sure we're kind of all hearing the same thing, we have open seats in existing classrooms that some of that 99 increase will go to.
Yes,
And then if we hire 2 teachers, we can now accommodate the full 99.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to go quickly because we aren't making any staffing requests. I just want to show you what it looks like at the middle school. And you can see enrollment has been remarkably stable, 633 in the 1920 year, little up and down, and 636 projected for next year. The couple of positions that were added were actually mental health supports, and you will recall a couple of years ago, we went to every day having PE and wellness. So some of that is actually a wellness teacher added in, but it's a very modest increase in FTE. And for next year, we are talking about flat staffing because I can show you what class size looks like by doing some division with the number of teams we have. So you take the number of students in the grade, you divide by the number of teams that you have, and that gets you to 336 3 teams, so there's 112 kids on each team, and then a teacher on a team teaches 5 classes. So you divide 112 by 5 and you get the number furthest to the right. So we can pretty safely say right now, class sizes in 7th grade, average, are gonna be somewhere around 22.4. We have a partial team that currently is in 7th grade, but because that's a smaller cohort with only 300 kids, it will move to 8th grade for next year, same division, and you get a 23.1. So flat, no requests for staffing. At Simsbury High School, you can see that the projection in blue is actually an increase from 1261. We've been trending down at the high school for quite a few years. How many years, you ask? It has been since, this is the first time we're slightly going back up since 2014-15. So it has been that many years, which some of you may recall as the end of the Sullivan era at Simsbury High School.
People just left in droves.
Yeah, and then
They did make the world record for the
the
most
projection's
amount of
23,
multiples, that class.
projections 23,
Lots of
24.
twins and triplets.
So we are, I will do the staffing exercise with Mr. Para, who comes before you each year and does the class size report. We'll work with the department supervisors. But for now, there are 115.82 FTE at Simsbury High School. And our goal going into that will be to say we're not going to increase any FTE. We might have to move a couple more math sections or a couple fewer PE sections, and we'll move slight personnel moves like that, but that keep the overall number of certified staff the same in the building. And given some of their smaller class sizes in the class size report, this is another place where we feel like we have room to absorb. Like we should be. So again, at the bottom there, the budget calls for flat staffing.
Is the increase at the high school a bigger 8th grade coming up, or is it something else?
It's a small 12th grade going out.
There were some new classes that we had to add to the high school. I don't remember what year that was.
Yeah, a lot of it has had to do with the capstone requirements.
Capstone, and weren't there some state requirements?
Yes. Some of the electives
Right.
in social
In social
studies.
studies.
Did that happen in 2023, or is that gonna happen?
The capstone certainly hit in
Capstone.
2022, 23.
And we have one section of one of those required classes running this year.
Okay.
So we utilized existing staffing in the social studies department to appropriately make sure that that class ran.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
So not related specifically at any level, but I want to, Matt always talks about the process, and our principals come in and talk to us about their needs, and it's a really important part of the process. So our principals do come in and ask for help in various areas of personnel, and I just want to acknowledge those and tell you that we're going to work to meet them where we can. So I just sort of called this additional considerations. So our principals did bring some requests. They're pretty modest requests, but it's the places where they're feeling the pinch a little bit. Certainly with some academic gaps, more tutoring hours have been needed. So some tutoring hours in math were requested, particularly here at Squadron Line. We've also had a pretty significant increase across the district in English language and learners last year. So we had to meet that need. We had a person who was working part-time who took on a lot more hours for us, and we think that person probably will need to continue working more for us. So that's something we need to budget for. Our principals asked for summer support. Getting ready for these school years is getting even more challenging, and our buildings can be pretty busy places in the summer too. So these are small requests for some additional secretarial support. We hire younger kids on summer custodial jobs, things like that we do like to try to support. And then as you add elementary classrooms, there becomes more of a need from a supervision standpoint for the general education paraeducators who watch them in the cafeteria and the playgrounds and everywhere else that they go in the school. So those are things we'll have to make adjustments with. Specifically at the high school, this was something we talked about a lot last year, Jen. I remember you talking about we know we're going to need FTE for the capstone requirement, but it's hard to figure out till you live it exactly what you're going to need. And one of the things that is quickly growing is the notion of kids going out and doing internships in the community. So one of the shifts of somebody's FTE might be to kind of take on a role of coordinating some of that work. If we don't need you teaching a class because more kids have gone over here, that can be, maybe you teach 4 classes and you coordinate the internship work instead of the typical teacher who teaches 5 classes, something like that. But we really have to pay attention to that because the capstone is off. It's in its infant stages, but it is super exciting because the kids who ended first semester who were doing all their presentations, I mean, we're already seeing what it does. So
And we have 2 FTE there now?
we have 2 FTE devoted to the
Right, we
capstone.
We added one last year. That's correct.
I certainly want to speak to the substitute challenges that all districts have. We have them too. Our primary strategy of trying to make the work more stable and attractive is to hire what we call permanent building substitutes. They're people that you guarantee work to. Like whereas most substitute work is per diem work, right? You get the call in the morning, or these are people you say, if you're willing to come every day, we're gonna pay you more, because we know in a large building like this, there's going to be a need. Somebody is going to be out. And so we started that, getting like one at each building a couple of years ago. We really see the need where we could probably have two at each building. I mean, one of the things that is still true with we have COVID cases every week. Not many, but we have a few, and they're out for 4. They're not out for a day. They're out for 4 days. So you've got to have people around to sort of backfill those. And in addition to that, to stay competitive with other districts, even your daily rate, which for us right now is $110 a day, it needs to go up. It's linked to that is at the top of the second column, monitoring the labor market for our lower wage positions. Some of this are our positions directly, general education, paras who are part-time, certainly our substitutes, but also positions that we assist with at an arm's length. Like even though food services is a separate entity, our cafeteria workers and being able to keep that operation staffed. J.R. Salter has significantly increased what he pays bus drivers in order to keep the fleet moving. And that is reflected in his contract of, but we're a place that hasn't had to cancel routes, as you see too often out in the news. So that, I come back to Amy when I think we need a little more money we got to pay attention to some of this because we need workers in these areas. As I said earlier, I think we have done a better job examining non-certified resignations and retirements when a paraprofessional retires. We'll look to make, is there somewhere where we can make a shift? Do we need to fill this position? If the answer is yes, it's yes, and we fill the position, but we have been able to get a little better control over an area that until a few years ago, we were seeing an upward trend of personnel costs. And that's where on some of these, to link the small requests, it's a place where we say to the principals, okay, I want to give you the tutor you need. What can we look at that might be a responsible reduction in your building, if that's what you need? And then lastly, there are some conversations, we haven't put them forward yet at this stage of the budget process. There's more conversation till we get to the final stage a month from now. We have been in some conversation with Tom Roy about a potential for a shared mechanic with the town vehicles, and we have about a dozen vehicles on our that right now we pay. They would need more help to help our side of the operation, but we send them out for maintenance now. And is there a way to capture some efficiencies now? And then Matt and Chief Bolter have been in talks about a third school resource officer dedicated more toward elementary work. So if that is able to be supported between two stressed budgets, they would love to be able to do it. But I wanted to make you aware that conversation has started, okay?
Can you just go back?
Sure.
Sorry. Hey, we talked about this a little bit last meeting, but I just wanted to ask. You mentioned the small requests for general ed paras.
Yeah.
What we're okay with the special ed paras?
The problem with special ed paras right now is more filling the vacancies.
Okay.
It has been, there are it's been hard to quickly fill vacancies. And then there's kind of a domino effect. You fill it with somebody who's moved, you've got more hours at your position at Squadron Line, so you left a position at Tooten Hills. Okay, now I'm looking for a job at Tooten Hills. And there's a domino effect that makes it hard to.
Yeah.
So we end up using substitute paras where we need to, and they're hard to find. So there has definitely, our building principals and our case managers would tell you, yeah, there's a lot of unfilled para days because someone called in sick and we didn't get anybody. Or there's been a vacancy there and it's been slow to fill.
Yeah, no, I understand, and then I would understand why it wouldn't be on the list, so that's
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that's mainly within the gen ed para educator.
That I was,
Special services.
it's both, but I would say the strain, it's harder to, the general ed, someone's got to cover when these kids are going to go out to the playground and like that's all got to happen. And whereas a case manager might have to do without their para for the day. It's not the general practice of what we're doing, but when the reality hits and you don't have anybody, you got to make a adjustment for the day. So here are two ways to summarize it for you. One with bullets, and then we'll show you the dollars. So here are the themes of what to summarize it. Obviously, the elementary K particular enrollment as a driver. The elementary special education teachers, right now 2 that we're budgeting for. At the workshop, in my personnel hat, I always think about health insurance as a cost that's a personnel cost. We're not talking about it tonight. We're talking about it at the workshop. But I think we highlighted at the tri-board meeting, it is a major driver. There's going to be significant insurance increase, and Amy will be covering that with you at the budget workshop. Those supporting those smaller requests through responsible reductions and monitoring the labor markets. So then you turn it into dollars. And this is in your presentation. I want to show you that obviously our contractual driver is always the teacher contract is the biggest, a little over $2 million is the increase there, representing an overall 2 2/3, 2.67% increase to the budget. This was the position that we actually there's an accounting, we're catching up from last year. This is the position that was restructured from last year. So just from an accounting standpoint, that's why we show a reduction there, because it moved into the teacher side of things. And then you can see other contracts a little lower. You can see some things that were previously covered under grants that now have to make their way into our budget. You see a big line item under unaffiliated and reserved, because as the Personnel and Negotiations Subcommittee knows, we don't do unaffiliated until late in the spring. And so we reserve money for a potential increase, and we are currently starting negotiations with our second biggest union, which is the SFEP, the paras and secretaries. So there's dollars earmarked for a potential settlement, but you don't want to be at this point in a process saying, and here's what the settlement is, because you're not going to get good faith if you do that. So you kind of take a guess of where you're going to be. An estimate, I don't want to say guess, an estimate of where you're going to be. The enrollment-driven staffing, which is the new positions plus some minor things that we do. Those are mostly increased hours that we know we need to do on the non-certified side. And then the phase-in that we've spoken about before in the non-lapsing. So you go up, the 2 drivers up add up to a 4.61. The non-lapsing results in a minus. And overall, to move the personnel side of this forward and 4 new positions, you're talking about 4.15% already.
What's the first tutors line?
Where does that increase come from? The 25 to 86, I can't tell if I'm going across.
That's what we already, those were newly added for this year, so they're projecting forward into next year, right? That was like the EL tutor that we've added.
So the first line of tutors is the budgeted increase from last year to this year, 23 to 24. And then under that was the new ones that we added for fiscal year 23 that were grant covered that now go back into the operating.
Other questions on this?
Amy, when do you think you'll have health insurance numbers by our workshop on the 4th?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talked to Locked In a couple days ago. They're shooting for Monday to have us the information.
That'll be helpful.
That's the increase of 23-24 over 22-23, isn't it? So then it's going to increase again. I'm sorry, I'm not getting where the increase is for 23-24 on the tutors.
So
Is it a calendar year thing and not a?
on which line?
The
Or both of
tutors,
them?
The 25 to 86.
So the 25 to 86 is just the increase in the tutors that we budgeted for fiscal year 23 that stayed in the operating budget for fiscal year 24. So just like all the other lines, just like nurses, just like NAED,
Right.
just like teachers.
Those are salary increases for the tutors we
Right.
already have
And
on staff.
And
Right.
some of it was added, even though the need came after the budget process last year. So additional hours were definitely added in that now are still being accounted for. I know that to be the case.
Okay.
Okay.
And then some of the tutor money was ARPA funds.
We use for grant funding.
And those are building employed tutors
Those are built, yes, yep.
or building based tutors, I guess I want to say. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Looking forward to the 4th. All right, so we are up to our second public audience, seeing that everybody has left us. 1, 6, 7, 7, 4, would like to say anything? With that, our next Board of Ed meeting will be Tuesday, February 7th in the Board of Ed conference room. For board members and staff, we're going to be meeting at our budget workshop on Saturday the 4th at Henry James at 9:30. Not,
Yeah.
9 o'clock. You just want me to get up.
It could be, it's not a regular meeting, so we can work on it.
Okay. It's fine.
We'll bring coffee.
We'll bring, that's good. All right, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Y'all want to stay?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
All right.